Can I get everybody's attention? Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone and welcome everyone for coming to Tampa Bay Business Trendsetters event. This is our Speaker of the Month series. This is our second speaker. We're a newly formed group and very excited about it. So have some great things in store tonight for you guys. For a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, I want to thank Rosa's not here, but of the Attic, for letting us in their house and hosting this event. And I see you guys have been supporting them with drinks and food, and I know she appreciates it. We really appreciate it. So want to thank them first and foremost. Then second, just want to introduce just our cast of characters and just what we're about, and then we'll jump into the goodies, because I know you didn't come here to hear me speak, and I don't blame you. So, Tampa Bay Business Trend. So first of all, our team in the back and emceeing tonight is Josh Ray. Josh is going to be facilitating you guys' questions, and I hope you came armed, because tonight's an amazing opportunity that you have. Then, got my man on the camera and Brock Gant. He's our social media guru. He's keeping us active, and you know, at the end I'll bring him up and he'll let you guys know where to follow us and all that good stuff. And then I'm Steve Rosen. I'm going to be the interviewer for this evening. Before we jump in, just so you guys, just give you a little history on Tampa Bay Business Trendsetters. So Josh, Brock, myself, we're all very passionate about entrepreneurship, especially in the local Tampa Bay market. So we wanted to do something that we can help to give back. And so we decided on doing a meetup group, but we just didn't want to do any meetup group where we have a monthly event, people get together at a watering hole or a bar or whatever. We wanted to do something that was going to be educational. So we came up with the idea, well, let's get a speaker of the month specific to entrepreneurship that can help not to just come up and present and sell their business, but that can talk about topics, educational topics that can help businesses that are happening, people that are wanting to start a business, and give some ideas, education on how to get through that. And then we didn't want to just stop there. We were like, okay, you know, people just don't want to hear speakers. We also want to do something that's going to bring some entertainment value and also be audience engaging. So we came up with an idea to have our own talk show. So every month we're going to have a speaker come up and talk that we're going to interview, and they're not going to know what we're going to be asking them, but they have to come prepared with a question, with the topic. And I think you're going to enjoy tonight's topic. It's called Failing Forward and Winning, and I think you're going to get some value. So I think we're going to get started. But before that, I want to welcome our guest, Richard Heruska.
Nice to see everybody.
So this guy's been a local serial entrepreneur. He's been involved with a lot of stuff, including work with the Tampa Bay Wave, which I'm going to give him an opportunity to talk about because I don't think I would do it justice. So. All right, well, we're going to get started. All right.
By the way, I'm slightly confused. He said entertainment. This isn't the entertainment, right? Is there like a live act or comedian coming? I'm hoping that...
We're the juggling balls.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure, you know.
So, all right, so we're going to get started. A few questions, and then we're going to get it out to you guys. So, first, Rich, welcome to Tampa Bay Business Trendsetters.
Thank
We're
you.
glad to have you. So, just to get an idea, 1,000-foot view, you know, what your entrepreneurial background is, you know, what you've been doing lately, all that good stuff.
We have a couple hours, by the way, so I'll try to boil it down. So I'm originally from New Jersey, by the way, flocked down south to go to school at USF, and after graduating, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be, and I didn't want a traditional job, and became an entrepreneur. My first business was an off-campus meal plan. Fast forward the videotape that failed, and then got into the mortgage company business, and that kind of evolved out of a house. We had 15 people on a kitchen counter. I'm giving you the Twitter Cliff Notes version. I know we'll dive in deeper. And that evolved into a very successful real estate company. I was in my mid-20s, it's 2005. Our company's growing leaps and bounds. It's called Home Discovery. We did a 2% real estate commission model. We're doing $15 million in annual sales. The founder of Outback was our core investor. That was 2005. We're getting calls from venture capitalists across the country. We want to invest, but we weren't ready for that. 2006, the market starts crumbling. We had to lay off 300 people in 2 years. And as you can imagine, you call those same venture capitalists and other groups when you're going down, like, who are you? What are you calling about again? So you learn the importance of, building on momentum and raising money when it's good. And then literally in 2007, I'll never forget the day, it was August 1st, we basically shut the company down. And again, I'm giving you the fast forward story. 2 weeks later, my oldest son, who's now 10 years old, was born. So talk about a sliding door in life. Like your professional baby is kind of, and then all of a sudden your son's born. So I was going through depression, but it was the happiest moment of my life. It was a crazy story. And then 2 years later, my son's getting a little older, we're starting to go to birthday parties. And I knew I had the entrepreneurial DNA in me. And then I started up a chain of family entertainment centers called Airhead's Trampoline Arena. So I like to joke it was not high tech, because now I help out at Tampa Bay Wave Technology Accelerator, but it was high profit. So it was a very good business, very successful. And for us going into that business, we want to make sure we didn't miss on the opportunity to sell and take care of our family a little bit again. So I said to myself, I'd rather be the person who said I sold too early than the person who missed the boat again. And now I've got 3 boys, by the way, and more of a vested interest with the family. So yeah, we sold the company 2 years ago. Had some flex time, became a mentor at the Tampa Bay Wave, and next thing you know, they asked me to become the interim accelerator director. So I've been doing that for almost a year now, and even though my business have been more on the traditional business side of real estate, even though we had a tech side to it, and family entertainment centers, I looked at this opportunity as a way to help scale where the future of commerce is going with technology, and also to be very candid with everybody here, I wanted to reinvent myself. You can never get too caught up in your laurels and your background, so I said, I know where technology's going. I know my oldest son is really interested in business, and I just don't want to just always teach him about the older economy. So yeah, here I am helping lead the Tampa Bay Wave Accelerator, and we've got over 50 companies in our total portfolio. We have 75 mentors, one of whom is with us today, Rick Daza, one of our cybersecurity experts, and we now have almost 200 investors in our investor network. So at the highest of levels, we're here to support tech companies and help create next exits and breakout companies in Tampa Bay. So I try to, a Twitter version, not to go too far into depth.
No, I actually, I think, I'd like to hear a little bit about the Tampa Wave, kind of, what they're doing to try to drive, people that are just, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I need help. What could Tampa Wave do for those folks?
So we're a technology accelerator. Who's familiar with what an accelerator is, by the way? Just to kind of see some hands. The national predominant model, it's a for-profit, for-equity model. We're actually a non-profit. We do not take equity in our companies. And if I were to boil it down high level, our companies are looking for capital, probably no surprise there, connections, and then mentors. So what we try to do is provide them resources in those 3 areas. So, again, our companies are looking to raise capital, so we like to make introductions to investors who fit their profile. If somebody's interested in, hey, this GDPR and everything that's happening out there, how do I get some guidance? They could go to somebody like Rick to give them feedback. So, again, with 50 companies, it's every day is a nonstop journey, and to be very candid, there's the personal side of entrepreneurship, where a lot of times we become counselors, we become friends. One of our new companies, he has a full-time job, but he's running his company at night, but he has a newborn kid and another one on the way. It's like the journey of entrepreneurship is real. And so even though I'm not the technology guru who's going to help them out the way Rick and others would be, I'm the one who can help them on the personal side and help them, figure out how to scale their company.
So, want to find out really what drove you to entrepreneurship? I mean, at what point in your life, was it younger on as a boy or whatnot? I mean, did you have dreams of being a doctor or a lawyer, or did you grow up just, I'm going to be an entrepreneur? What was the story that drove you to it?
It's a good question. So my father's a postal worker, and my mom was a custodial worker. So it wasn't necessarily in the family, if you will. Coming to college, you probably couldn't tell now, I was very introverted, and I got involved in the fraternity, and the competitive side of me came out. So I was leading homecoming, leading my fraternity. I just love being able to work with the team and create some awesome things. And then again, everybody else is graduating, getting like consulting jobs and doing amazing things. And I'm like, I don't think I'm that talented to get those big corporate jobs. And a fraternity brother of mine was starting up an off-campus meal plan, and he said, do you want to help me get it going off the ground? And I didn't know any better. The irony was I was the most outstanding senior in my class of over 4,000 graduates. So people are like, what are you doing? You're doing an off-campus meal plan? They thought I was crazy. And that's where I learned entrepreneurship is crazy. It's not a road for many people, and it's a lonely road, but I just fell in love with being able to create change and make an impact, and the decision side of it, and being a little in control of your destiny, whether that's completely failing for the title of this event in a perception way, or winning. So yeah, it wasn't like I was brought up in the family and whatnot, but now having a 10-year-old, he's interested in entrepreneurship, not because I'm like preaching to him entrepreneurship. He just sees daddy doing things, and then now he's interested in it. So
yeah, and coming from Boston, I thought that was a big entrepreneur tech startup mecca, but I didn't realize how big it is in Tampa and how it's really overtaken, which is why we all want to get involved with this. So at that point, I mean, where was it where it's like, okay, I'm in for life as an entrepreneur? What was that defining moment? Where was it?
Being in it for life, it would have actually been after the failure of the real estate company, having some time to reflect, and then now going back to starting a company at the age of 33 with a wife and a son, a little bit more pressure, if you will. That was that pivotal moment where it would have been absolutely safer and probably more responsible for me to go get a good job, make steady income, and then one day I come home to my wife and I told her I'm starting up a trampoline park. And let's just say initially that didn't go over that well, but I had to bring her out to one and her to see it and be like, oh wow, so it would have been, I felt like I wouldn't have been able to leverage everything I learned in the ups and downs of the real estate company. I felt I would have just done it, not for naught, but I just felt like there was so much more I could have learned from that experience. And I want to be very candid with everybody. When the market was crashing, prior colleagues, even my former business partner, they would tell you we failed because of the real estate market. And by the way, Coldwell Banker was writing off billions of dollars. But in my opinion, that would be a cop-out for me to say we failed because of the real estate market. We actually had a phenomenal back-end technology platform. This was back in 2005. We were starting to do home valuations before Zillow came out. Now, I'm not trying to say we were going to become Zillow, just to be clear.
So how did that work?
Well, basically, we were building a back end where people can order their appraisals and figure out exactly 24/7 where everything was in the process. This is 13 years ago. We had a phenomenal back end, a phenomenal CRM. We could have pivoted. We could have evolved. I boil it down to we didn't listen to our customers enough. Traditional real estate was A. We were trying to bring it to Z. And in hindsight, it's always 20/20, right? The solution was more M. But again, we were so fixated on we want to transform, we want to change. Because you need to have passion as an entrepreneur, but we didn't listen enough to our customer. And if we did, but you know what? Here's the thing, though. It was all meant to happen because when we started the mortgage company, the mortgage business was amazing. So everything you threw at the wall stuck. When we started the real estate company and evolved, everything you threw at the wall stuck. So when you're only learning in a robust market, you're not learning the A to Z of your business. So honestly, it was meant to happen. It was meant to be fate. And so yeah, I would say that moment of going back on the entrepreneurship journey, that was probably the moment where I said, yep, I'm kind of all in now.
You're all in.
Yep.
So speaking of customers and that, hey Josh, let's kind of see what the audience has questions for Rich. Come on guys, a great opportunity here. Who's got questions?
I'll ask one. So in coming to the customers, what about you can listen to a customer, they're saying lots of stuff. What's the stuff that you should listen to? What's the key words, or because it's about customer experience. So
part of it, candidly speaking, was not just listening to the customer, it was listening to the competitor. Okay. And one would say, well, why would you listen to your competitor? Because you should be focused on your core business. The competitors, the traditional real estate companies, were saying you would never work. And it was easy to discount that because they didn't like what we were doing. Share a little quick, interesting anecdote.
Please.
The founder, like I said, of Outback was our core investor. And he also owned Leroy Selman's, another restaurant. Leroy Selman's was getting letters from realtors saying, I will never eat at your establishment again because you're backing home discovery. Like, we were aggressive in our commercials. We were portraying a real. Are there any realtors in the room, by the way? If there are, okay. Whether I respect what they do, but we were just so aggressive. We would portray a realtor at the pool, not answering their phone. Call us 24/7. We were very aggressive. Here's what I'm getting at. We were just discounting what the realtors are saying. They said we wouldn't work long-term because of our fixed costs. All of our 300 agents across the state were salaries, vehicles, insurance. When the market's good, it's all good, but in an up and down real estate market, having those fixed costs was one of the death nails of the company. So part of it is not just discounting it because it's your competitor, if there's actually real legit, so I guess being open, I would almost say was most important, and then our customer, they would tell us they loved when Rich would visit the home to be the listing agent. Not that I was, but give an example. And then Rick would be the contract agent, and then Steve would be the closing. They'd speak with 6 or 7 people in the process. And they said, "Well, we miss Rich. Why can't we have Rich?" And we said, because it was always because of what we were trying to do. So it was kind of just, they were telling us what they wanted, and we just weren't listening. I don't know if that helps elaborate. So I don't want to say there's like a key thing or not. It just, I guess it comes to a culture of relying on your 300 amazing people who are working with your customer every day. They're telling you the solution. And the good news is in my next company, we did a lot more of that, and we were ultimately a little bit more successful at the end. So, good question. Does anybody need a couple of more adult beverages to open? No, I'm just kidding.
My fast question.
Yeah, no, please.
Was your priority profit or to be the best at what you're doing when starting a new company or anything?
Are you saying, was it in my prior businesses?
What was your priority, profit or being best at trampoline?
In our real estate company, it wasn't profit. It was to grow, and it was to scale, and it was to transform. And each time we increased our revenue, we would spend that back in marketing. And in hindsight, I don't know if we were marketing, we were literally tattooing everything that I'm sorry to use the analogy, I just saw it, I didn't even realize after I say that, no. It was just a figure of speech, but literally people would wake up in the morning and they would see us on morning television. They'd get in their car and hear us on drive time radio. They'd get home and get a direct mail piece. We were everywhere. And in hindsight, it was probably ego driven. It wasn't strategic, it was like, keep on saying tattoo because that's the word I've always used, but we were just blasting everywhere, and ultimately we could have been more profitable and had some reserves long term. Interesting enough, at the next company, it was about profit.
Right.
And when I say it was about profit, we had our family entertainment brand, what was exciting about it was people could go, it's kind of, I make the analogy, who has children here, by the way? Who's got kids? If you offer them a vegetable ravioli, or if you say, hey kids, eat your vegetables, sometimes they don't like it, but if you give them a vegetable ravioli, they might eat it all day long. So the point is, kids were getting tons of cardio at our trampoline parks, a great exercise, great health benefits, getting off the Xbox, but the kids weren't looking at it like exercise. So there was a purpose, there was a passion, but very candidly, coming off of the experience of the real estate company, we were mindful of profit day one.
Right.
And we were in the black, profit-wise, month one. Because we were focused on.
So would you prefer then, not to ask the second question, but would you prefer profit or become the best at what you're doing?
It depends on the type of company you're building. It honestly does. In other words, if you're building a tech company, in these days, sometimes to really get it off the ground and compete with the massive marketplace, sometimes it's actually building traction and building customers before profit. I mean, some of our best companies who are doing amazing things, they're not profitable yet. So I want to be mindful of not guiding. A lot of it depends on the type of company. I know it depends on what you're trying to do.
Right.
You have a company specifically that you're kind of. Oh, awesome.
So along that line about customers, profitability, and using the real estate, I went to a session just like this with Zillow CEO last year,
Oh, wow.
which was fascinating. They came out of Hotwire, so they had lots of money behind them. Okay, lots of money. And my question is, figuring out your user or your customer, okay, because they're two different things here. Zillow was about getting all that data and getting people to want to look at their house price.
Yep.
But they don't make money off individual homeowners. Last year, 2016 was $700 million.
Yep.
That's all realtor advertising. So how do you help companies look at who your true customer is?
Oh, it's a great question. Part of it does depend on the business model. It really does. So if you're a big data play or a marketing ad tech company, your play might be selling the ads long term. But in order to sell the ads, you have to get critical mass of your user base first. So I hate to keep on go back to it depends, but it truly, in my opinion, depends on your day. We have one company that does outsource sales solutions. For them, they have to make the sales engine run and turn on sales and profits today to further grow their company. So I think a lot of it depends. I mean, we've had some companies who have one's raised $25 million, and they're now building national distribution channels and partnerships, and they might have an exit in a few years, but it's a long journey sometimes when you're building a tech company. So,
Hey, Rich.
I compete in SaaS software business,
Okay.
mobile CRM, so how do you compete against a company that says that they're free? They're really not free, but it's called a freemium model.
Sure.
You know, meaning it's offered free and it's free. But now, how do you just compete with it? First of all, there's all that's free and we want to use that. It's like everybody wants free and we want obviously we want to pay us. You know?
Free for how long, by the way?
That's a good question. Well, they said some of them say free forever, but I think they have a bunch of restrictions on that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think you need to sell value. So when you get caught up in the price wars, I think that's a slippery slope sometimes. So ultimately, I think you have to have confidence in your product and your brand, and you got to just get customers and get traction. And then, you know, in other words, you can't say yes to everybody, because that's what a lot of entrepreneurs do. We want to say yes to everybody, and then those customers become challenging ones, and you're making no money off of it. So I think it depends on your niche too. I mean, some of our most successful companies service very specific niches. One's called Lily Pad. They're a SaaS for craft brewery sales teams.
Yeah.
How narrow of a niche is that? But they're becoming experts in what they do. We just did a big press article on them. They just hit $1 million in annual recurring revenue. Another company is called Title Tap. They do SaaS for title companies. So I think part of it too, depending on your model, the more focused you can be, we're seeing that that's pretty important too. So. Good questions.
What are other tripping stones that you've seen as a starting entrepreneur?
A big one that I don't think gets talked about enough is where people are at in their life and who's on board. Do you have a spouse? Do you have a partner? Do you have kids? Do you have a mortgage payment? So I mean, the unwritten, unsaid thing that I see with our 50 companies, because a lot of times they confide and trust in me, a lot of it's personal conversations. Or it's a friend who doesn't believe in their business. So I think that's a common pitfall. I think another common one is, those who are in the tech space are familiar with the lean startup method, building a minimal viable product. I think a lot of people just say, I know what's best, going back to the real estate, I'm going to build this platform, build this tech. You go to sell to a customer and they're like, no, I want this and this and this. So a common pitfall is people believing so much that they know the customer and they haven't gone out to the market and gotten true feedback. And then sometimes, honestly, people believe it's all about raising capital. And don't get me wrong, some companies, their model is you need to raise capital, but in my opinion, customers are a source of capital. So I think sometimes there's this whole misnomer in tech specifically that you build a product, you scale, you build users, and you sell it for tons of money in 3 to 5 years. Those stories are out there, but there's a recent stat, not to try to be a naysayer on a Wednesday night while we're all having a few adult beverages, but the recent stats of tech companies, I think it's 70% failure rate. Like, it's not an easy space, it's not an easy game, but I think people just have this perception. You just go raise capital and you get investors and you sell it one day, and again, those stories happen. But so I think if people focused on customers more, then I think that's where the great opportunities happen. So I could probably spend all night talking about pitfalls, but those are some common ones.
Yeah, I'm curious. So you mentioned not understanding the customer. Would you say that's the biggest failure of the tech companies, or is there another scenario that comes into play as well?
In the tech space, there's actually some specific data points. Here's what I'll share on the other positive side. There's some studies on angel groups and VCs talking about the biggest success factors. Most of the time you hear it's team. And I'm a big believer of team too, because most of these companies are going to pivot and evolve depending on the marketplace. This study actually shared that timing was actually even bigger than team. So the timing, if you inverse that, not the right timing in the market, sometimes you could be too early or too late if you don't have the right team. And a lot of times we see what we call solopreneurs, people trying to do it by themselves, nights and weekends. That's I see some nods, that's not an easy road either. So, if I was to start up a tech company tomorrow, I would absolutely do it with a team, because doing this by yourself is very difficult, and we're just not seeing, there's always outliers in any data, model, but more and more it's those who have a manager. It's kind of like you're doing this event, you just got started 3 months ago, check them in. You already have a team helping you out. I mean, you see the benefits right there. So, so I just think sometimes people think it's easier than what it is.
So, question, it's drawn my curiosity being a tech recruiter for so many years. So, do you feel, a lot of entrepreneurs in the tech space, they get a great idea. Do you feel that is it the chicken or the egg that, I should identify what the problem is and then try to create a solution to that problem? Or do I create something that's going to intrigue somebody to thinking, wow, I never knew I had that. I mean, you take the iPhone, for instance. I mean, nobody ever thought 15, 20 years ago about just having something where you could play an individual song and that sort of thing. What's your thoughts on that?
The majority of our successful tech companies, again, I'm speaking to the companies at the Wave, but I think this goes for a lot of, whether it's Zillow or other stories you read, is they saw, or they had a specific personal pain point, whether in their company or personally, and they were like, well, what's the solution to this? And then the solution comes up. Who's familiar with the company Spanx? It's not a traditional tech company, but remember hearing that story, like, she wanted to, I can't speak to it as well because I don't wear them, but just basically she was trying to create a different hybrid and then did it, and they're like, well, this could be a product, and started, I mean, I'm paraphrasing the story, but a specific product, and it's $1 billion plus brand today. So I think if people are trying to force it and then backfill the solution, I don't see that working as well. It's a specific pain point, a specific problem, and then how do I create, I mean, I'll give you a great example. 10 years ago this month, Tampa Bay Wave was created as a meetup group. So
really,
I don't know if you knew it. Yeah,
no, I did not know
how telling and fitting it. And by the way, I went to the very first one. I was actually dabbling in. I could have shared more of the journey of entrepreneurship in my kickoff. I dabbled in the .com back in the day. I probably needed a beer for that one, but
we get a beer back here?
I'm good. Afterwards. And I went to the first one, and there's more people here in that first one, but bottom line, Linda, our founder and president, she identified just the lack of capital, lack of resource, lack of understanding. People just thought it was, you're building a tech and it's a .com and it's going to blow up like in the late 90s. So that's the spirit of how, so Linda was building a .com and a tech company, saw pain points, got a bunch of fellow like-minded, when I say like-minded, different thoughts, but like-minded and trying to build a tech company, and then month by month, year by year, and then one day they said, well, we need to do this like at another level. There's a lot more people, a lot more mentors, a lot more companies, and then she got, I mean, I don't know how she did it, but got $1 million SBA grant 5 years ago to kick it off and actually become a full entity, operating budget, the whole 9 yards. So how cool is that, right? So I'm sure the three of you saw, hey, there's a need and opportunity for great people to come together and collaborate, get to know each other and share ideas. So yeah, it's I think it's when you see, and that's always been, candidly speaking, the challenge for me. I've never been the most creative ideation person, so I'm not just gonna walk out of here tonight like, oh, I've got the next idea to do. It's more of just being out in the community and seeing things, So
Steve, I got 3 questions now.
All right, perfect. Line them up for me, Josh.
Hi, I know bowling. I work at Florida Polytechnic University.
Oh, awesome.
So this is kind of then from a different perspective. What are your thoughts then on entrepreneurship within the universities? And thoughts on that as to how they kind of evolve and how do you guys reach out to them, or even just like the status of them currently?
Is this being recorded, by the way? Or? So I've got a quick little story about Florida Polytech. So I was the president of the USF Alumni Association 5 years ago. When the whole, how long have you been with the university?
A year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember the whole budget cut issue 5 years ago.
I read all about that.
Yeah.
I'm from Indiana University.
Okay.
So.
I was very involved in that. So I admire the entrepreneurial spirit of getting that university off the ground because it wasn't necessarily easy. It's interesting. 8 of our companies at the Tampa Bay Wave are from Gainesville and the University of Florida. They're creating some awesome entrepreneurs, from that university. And I think they have so many programs, so many pitch coaching competitions, an incubator, and USF, it's my alma mater, it's my pride and joy, I bleed green and gold. It's just not at the same level yet. Now they're the 8th largest patent producer, so there's a lot of innovation that side, but I think some of it comes down to how the universities are organized at the college of business level. and also the freelance economy. More and more college students want to become entrepreneurs. So I think it doesn't need to be the afterthought, and it needs to be the thought. Like day one, what do you plan on doing, and how can you start doing that today? So I think we have a long ways to go. Very candid. I welcome any ideas and thoughts because we're starting to see a lot of collaboration in the University of Tampa as well. But to me, that's where truly, right now, they're building the next great tech company.
They are.
And if we don't engage them enough,
And they're limited too. So, you can have like 5 students or something like that because you're going to take the top 5 instead of there's 20 students that have ideas and those 15 are just, well, better luck next time.
Yep.
Too, so.
I wish I had better answers on that one. It's an opportunity for sure.
I might be giving you a company idea, but my son is probably going to be a serial entrepreneur. He went to UFF, he left USF, he went to UF, he went to USF, he left USF, he left with a 4.0 and he said, I don't need this stuff. He started a business that was successful from day one.
Oh, wow.
But one of the things I don't think he's considering, because mom's going in for some other stuff, is
like I said, the family dynamics, right?
how does a serial entrepreneur, maybe I'm giving you the next business idea, so that's okay, do things like get health insurance, all the things that a corporation would give you, but you don't get as a serial entrepreneur. How do you what is the solution base for that situation?
You have to be crafty, you have to be creative, you have to be nimble. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I'll give you one small example. One of our newer companies didn't have the wherewithal to pay for talent. They found an amazing video and content creator. They literally let them live in their apartment, and that's how they bartered them doing business. So it might be a matter of, one of our companies doing amazing things. I don't know how publicly they are in sharing where their corporate office is, so I'm not going to name the company name, but wickedly talented, building phenomenal tech, great investors, great partners, and literally their corporate office is their home where several of their founders live. Because think about it, they would have to pay rent at a co-working space or an office, and they'd have to pay personal rent, and they're doing it together. And one might say, oh, how do you build a company out of your house? Well, some of the greatest companies ever were built out of garages and owned. So on the health one, I don't know if I have
There's even a challenge there because they dropped mom's home insurance because there was a business running out of it.
Ah, okay. Yeah, and again, not every solution has the prettiest
There's
path.
all kinds of little ancillary things when you're not working in a corporate space.
Yeah, so I think just creativity, and again, there was a day where if you built a website, it was going to cost you 25 grand. You could build a website for probably hundreds of dollars with the squares and the square. Yeah, it's just there's so many creative opportunities these days. I just think you have to think differently. And one thing we're seeing is this group called the Startup Genome. They're interviewing ecosystems like Tampa Bay across the world, and they're actually finding more success in the companies who are actually a part of the ecosystem. Like whether it's going to an event like this, it doesn't have to be if you're a member of the Wave or cohort. It could literally be hanging out at an event like this, meeting awesome people, and just so I think part of it's who else could they talk to that may have ideas to help. And that's the great thing about our ecosystem. These companies really talk to each other because they a lot have the similar pain points. So it's that peer masterminding effect. And I'll share one little interesting data point on that. We have what we call executive EIRs for our grow companies. Has anybody heard of TriBridge and MyMatrix here by chance? They're two of the largest tech exits we've had in the last year. They will attribute their founders, a big part of their success, they've said this just unsolicited, they were part of a peer mastermind group with Dr. Mary Key over the years. So it was them coming to the table and sharing a pain point, and then they collaborate and then help each other, but also hold each other accountable. Hey Rich, last month you said you're gonna do A, B, C, and D. Well, Rich, you committed to it. Why didn't you do it? So part of the peer mastermind is peer accountability too. So I would heavily encourage your son to do as much as he could to learn from other people. So
He's challenged in that space. He's going to do his own thing. I told him about the Wave and all this thing. He's massively successful in his space, and
he hasn't hit the pitfalls potentially yet, or
and I need to drop funding some of these things that he's not noticing. He doesn't have.
Got it.
That's why I was seeing if you had a solution for that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing too is if I would have been involved in a community like this or having mentors, you know, at my earlier stage of companies, they definitely, not saying we would have changed, but they would have opened our eyes to where the pain points were. So, but yeah, I'd be more than happy to kind of further collaborate on that. So.
Okay.
Josh, do we have any more questions out there?
Come on, right here.
I used to have another business to before, and I had to stop due to my health. And after that, it took a lot of, you know, trial and error and all kinds of thoughts. And what should I do next? Do I go for another, you know, employer or start another business? What are the kind of things you had to do daily to go from closing down a business and then going to the next level?
Are you talking like on the specific tactical side? Like,
No,
more-
like what are the things that you tried, or you know, you tried to maybe try to find a job, or what?
Oh, okay, got it. Yo, so I wasn't sure on the question. So after the real estate company went down, I actually dabbled in the .com, and now in 2008 it was one of those environments where you got to build a million users and gain traction. We were trying to get money, and people were laughing at us. Funny enough, it was a company called Active Avenue. We were meant to be and intended to be kind of a social network for communities and neighborhoods. There's a company now, I think it's called Front Porch or Front Door? Nextdoor, thank you. There's, I think, 236 venture-backed unicorns out there. A unicorn is $1 billion plus valuing company. They're one of them. and talk about timing and not having the skill set at the time in the marketplace and all that. But that wasn't going too well because, again, just the different dynamics. And so after about a year, I was like, all right, I got to start feeding the family. I got to start figuring it out. But I didn't necessarily have another idea and whatnot. So actually went out and worked for a franchise sales company. I became a president of a franchise sales company for a year. And I'll never forget it. They were doing like a company retreat and everybody's going around the room what they wanted to do. And I said I wanted to lead a consumer-facing brand within the next year. And the main president of the company comes to me like, Rich, you want to do that? That means you're not here. I'm like, well, you want us to be authentic and open, you know? So I was thinking ahead, but wasn't sure. And then again, just kind of, the irony is they were selling to a trampoline park. I tried to make excuses to get out of the meeting. I'm like, trampoline park, this is before they were more widely known. And I walked in and I just saw diversity of revenue streams, little kids, big kids. And you know, they didn't have one in Tampa, and next thing you know, I took the leap. But yeah, there was a time where I had to go back and I don't mean to talk about a job being a bad thing. Like, I learned a ton, you know, and so for me personally, again, not just being ideas all day long, I think you put yourself in an environment where you're meeting great people, doing great things, and then the ideation comes out. So for example, like, I've loved the companies I've had, and I'm not just saying this because I'm meeting with another Wave mentor, another one here. The fulfillment side of what I do at the Tampa Bay Wave, it's at the same level, if not even above sometimes, of my own companies. And the reason I say this is because you have a tiny little part in a lot of companies and a lot of people, and make an introduction. So it's really meaningful. So not to get too sentimental, you know, again on it, but for me, I felt like I had to go out and take care of my family. And there's entrepreneurs out there, they you know, if the significant other or spouse isn't on board, that's a tough road. It's a tough road because ultimately it's going to cause frustration and strife in future parts of life, you know. So, question.
Why don't you take back over some of the questions?
All right. Yeah, we're not going to let you go just yet. So Rich, you and I were talking a little bit earlier this afternoon, and we were talking about the topic, and you mentioned, you know, you made a great point. It's not exactly failing for it, but it's pivoting. Do you have an example or two of where you hit a roadblock and it was either you pivot to live from a professional standpoint or whatnot? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, a few. I mean, when we were kind of going through a big shift in the real estate marketplace, which exposed a lot of the fundamental flaws in our business, we were trying to keep it going. We were trying to keep the ongoing concern going, and just we couldn't keep up with the layoffs quick enough. We couldn't keep up with the financial changes enough, and that was a major one. So we tried to hang on till the very end, and then you finally realize you're not doing anybody any good by doing it. So I think sometimes you have to actually realize the writing is on the wall, and you have to, whether it's pivot or close down a company or try new things. And interesting, the word is pivot in the technology space, and it's funny. I know I really like the title they came up with failing. To me, failing is more of an external perception than it is a personal reality. So even in my deepest and darkest, and sitting there on one hand depressed, but I've got a newborn in my lap, and wow, I just had to shut down a company, I'm being very authentic with you, never looked at that as a failure. Even though the company technically failed in the traditional black and white sense because it didn't have an ongoing concern or didn't have an exit, I never looked at it as a failure. So I think part of it, I think the personal mindset people have, and any challenges you're going through in business or in life, it's perspective. So for me, I still had a roof over my head, was still at least, wasn't able to do the nicer hotels at Disney for the kids, but still would drive there during the day. Like life was always relatively, it's perspective, I think. You think about people have it much tougher than you, much more challenging. So yeah, I went through my own personal depression, my own struggles, and when my oldest son was going to his first couple of schools, I had to change out schools because we were trying to get back on our feet. Like we literally lost everything financially, had to start over, lost our home, lost everything, and so there were some tough moments along the way. But I always felt that the best days were ahead, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. So Rich, during those dark days, is there a person or professionally, personally, that kind of influenced you to, get up off the ground, keep going? Who was that for you?
It was my son.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, bottom line, you realize, you're kind of taught as an entrepreneur, you need to be heads down, 24/7, all in. And I'm not discounting any of that. But at the end of the day, one of my pretty influential mentors in life, incredibly successful person. I don't want to share too much about them, but let's just say they're incredibly wealthy. They've done amazing things. Their name's on buildings, and they've shared with me they regret not spending more time with their kids and other endeavors growing up. And you hear that increasingly from people who, yes, they've done everything. They've sold amazing businesses. They're multi-billionaire, millionaire, but they have regrets. So for me, I'm actually thankful on a personal level the company didn't work out because I was that 24/7 grinder. And by the way, I still have some bad habits that still come out once in a while because I like helping move an organization forward. But I had a key mentor the other day ask me, what are your key goals in life? I go, it's to remain my children and my wife as my compass in life. And in order to do that, you have to be grounded sometimes. So, and again, this is just a personal perspective, but for me, it was actually holding a newborn son and realizing life is so much bigger than a company. And again, I know we're here to talk about entrepreneurship, whoa, it should be about your company, but I think more and more, and by the way, I think the up and coming generation, I know millennials have certain stigmas in good ways and maybe not other good ways, but I think they're being more mindful of what actually matters in life. There's a lot more companies being built with a purpose-driven mission on it. So I think just keeping an eye on the ball, what makes you happy. I know that sounds like a cliche, but So yeah, for me it was, so on the personal side, it was my son, but then you start talking to very successful entrepreneurs and you realize the common denominator of most of them is they all had quote unquote failures. So there was a gentleman, actually the former CEO of Ideal Image. He took Ideal Image from 2 locations to 60, 70 plus, and they ended up exiting for $175 million. And he never allowed me to get too worked up in my story. So oh yeah, I did that too. I did this, I failed this, I bankrupted that. You start to put in perspective, it's the journey many entrepreneurs have.
So for the audience out there, is there a particular book that you recommend reading that could give perspective?
There's a good handful. An eye-opener for me was, funny enough, the 4-Hour Work Week.
4-Hour Work Week?
Yep. In terms of, let me say that there's so many books you read that are the same common threads. They're just branded a different way. The irrefutable laws of leadership, the 7 most effective habits of, it's a lot of the same stuff. That was one of the first books I read that made me actually think a little differently about effectiveness. And who's read the 4-Hour Work Week, by the way? I saw you. Wow. Yeah. Tim Ferriss is a pretty widely known author, and he talks about 4 hours, like it's the day before you go on vacation or you're going out of town. You're so productive, you're so effective. He's like, why don't you do that more and be better and more effective, you know, and not being on your email 24/7. So it really made me open my eyes to being not just working harder, but working smarter. You know, and it's interesting, I didn't do that in my real estate company. Just a quick example in our family entertainment centers. So near the end of the summer, sales would usually drop off like a cliff. There's a week or two before summer's out, everybody's going back shopping and getting ready back to school, and I was just tired of those last 2 valuable weeks of the summer dropping off. So I remember, I'm like, I literally just kind of didn't go to the office, kind of sat back and just thought about how we could change that. I was doing research, more thinking than acting, and what I can say, working on the business versus in it. I remember coming across the store of Outback Steakhouse at the time. They had grown their same store sales, I think it was like 16 quarters in a row. And they did it because of limited time offers. Like, huh, interesting. If it's good enough for a publicly traded, pretty successful company, why can't it be good for what we did? So at the time, we were doing $16.95 per one-day jump pass. What we did is we said, you know what, we're gonna give it to them for the week. Buy one day, fly all week. Those 2 weeks totally got transformed in our business simply because of working a little bit smarter, I'd like to say, talking to our customers, talking to our employees, and not always working hard. So yeah, for some reason, the 4-hour work week was one of those unique reads and just the different perspective on business and life.
I'm gonna download
And
that.
by the way, Tim Ferriss, he's got his own interesting anecdotes on things. He won some judo competition because he literally lost more water weight in 2 days to then be bigger the day of. So he's got some interesting hacks in life, you know. So with anybody, you got to take them with, just like us talking, you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
Absolutely.
But he opened my mind, and I think powerful books open your mind to different things.
So before I wrap up with my 2 last questions, I'm gonna let our audience. That's all right. I saw you, ladies. So, all right, please.
I think to me, you keep on saying is perspective as the kind of the guiding principle in terms of helping you reframe those downtimes. Because entrepreneurship is definitely a squiggly line, right? You're constantly in peaks and valleys, even when you're succeeding in your business, right? You'll have times of doubt. What is your strategy, your formula to reframe those times when you're just like, man, stuff is hard?
Put it away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's step one. And when I say put it away, for me, my mind's always going. That's just the way, so it sounds cheesy, but yard work allows me to put it away. Spending time with my kids, I see a thumbs up. You know, it's not like I have a ton of hobbies, but spending time with my kids, they don't care how daddy's work day. I mean, they care, because but they don't care about the nuances and the challenges. So I think putting it away, and it's kind of the whole, you know, sharpen your axe philosophy. You know, if I had an axe and I was competing versus Rick, and you know, I'm working harder and I'm going, but Rick takes a break and sharpens the saw, he's probably going to cut the tree down quicker because he took a break, sharpened the saw, and went back at it. So I think you just got to sometimes, and again, I'm mindful of startups and tech companies and everything we're all doing in here is not, it sounds, oh, it's great, easy for Rich today because, you know, whatever, but it's just what my go-to is. I first, like, whoa, take a step back. For instance, I've been in a certain grind at the Wave, you know, and the kids are out of school, so next week we're gonna go see a different city that we've not done before. And I'm gonna try to put it away. And the good thing is we're building a team and building some scale, so the wheels aren't gonna come off. You know, so I think putting it away is, and again, talking to other people and having that support network. I know I said it before, but I just think, you know, it's interesting. At a younger age, I felt I had to have all the answers. I thought I had to prove, and it's silly when you think in hindsight, but then you realize, like, no, it's actually better. It doesn't matter who comes up with the answers, but put yourself out there, and then, so I think just leveraging the network, you know, whether it's friends or other business colleagues or your customers, and, you know, and that's the beauty of the world that we live in today of online, and people are a lot more, in my opinion, collaborative and connected than they were before. So there's just a couple of things that come to mind.
So along that line, ecosystems can breed success, and there's a continuum that continues on its own. Some cities have specialties. Can you tell us what you think Tampa Bay may be? Because ad tech was New York, and it's now in LA. You know, e-commerce and on-demand services is still San Francisco. These are areas between Tampa Bay Wave and other things. What do you think we should be focusing on?
It's a tremendous, very timely question. When I first got involved as the interim accelerator director, we have this kind of internal build, launch, grow platform of companies, which is great, but to the external market, what does that mean? If I'm a health tech company or cybersecurity company, so interestingly enough, there's a group called the Startup Genome. I think I mentioned that before. They're a nonprofit global organization. They go into ecosystems and take kind of an impartial study of everybody in the ecosystem, larger companies, accelerators. We had a lot of our member companies be interviewed, and they actually identified 3 key verticals that they thought were some of the largest sectors. And one of them I'm going to share. You might disagree with based on what you've already said, but again, they took some of the data. So health tech was one of them, ed tech another, and marketing and ad tech. Based on our and it's not trying to say they're at the level of New York or in LA, but in terms of emerging markets that they feel can further grow. And then the 2 ones that came, they weren't top 3, but they're emerging. Actually, cybersecurity was one, and fintech, financial tech, for Tampa Bay. And I think it's important because we have to increasingly get very good at a couple of those focal point areas. So interesting enough, 11 of our 50 companies out the Wave are health tech companies. So
all those are B2B, but more focused than B2C.
Sure.
Which is what Tampa's been.
Well, no doubt. And it's interesting, there's companies we have at the Wave who start as a B2C, business to consumer, and that's a tough space sometimes for companies and the amount of money they need to raise and traction. And so a lot of them have evolved and pivoted to B2B models. Because, again, raising capital is a key thread, and when you go to these capital conferences, every other word is B2B recurring SaaS. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for repeatable revenue. So yeah, but those are the 3 sectors within and cyber right behind there. So, and then that's the industries of today. And 2 years from now, it'll be, that's the thing. It's always rapidly moving. Good question.
One more question here, then
I'll wrap it up. Yep.
Okay, so tell me if it doesn't make sense, but basically, if you, in general, let's say if you have this passion to kind of like go out there and create and do different things, but you have all these ideas. I mean, how do you really latch on to something that you're like, you feel like, oh man, okay, I could find a solution for this, or I could find a solution for that, but then it's hard figuring out what's that right niche, and then it's also hard to figure out not only what's the right niche for you that you really care about, and that you would actually invest time in, and you would, get people gathered around, but then also that would end up being able to get that niche target audience, like you were talking about, being able to understand like how do you scope out where they're at and what their needs and wants are, and are they the same as what you're envisioning or not? These kind of things, and then so it's a 2-part thing. So that's my first kind of question, and then one other question, please. So you talked about scaling, and I was just kind of curious what you think of scaling. What your kind of definition is, and how you really see what you see as scaling in general.
Well, to go with the first one, I'll mention somebody who has done amazing things, and they're known more on the Shark Tank side of things because they're on the Shark Tank TV show, but they've done incredible ventures, and that's Mark Cuban. And he's a big believer in following what your passion is. So as you think about those different ideas you mentioned and what you could potentially do, I truly think if you're going to choose any business, be in something that the pain points you have a passion for, that you really can offer some expertise one way or the other. So a lot of people come up with ideas that they're just doing it for the money, and those oftentimes don't work out as well. I'm sure there's outliers, right? So I would say follow the passion. And then the second one, you had a second part to the first one, actually.
Then you keep mentioning scale, so it feels like that's something that you've been thinking about a lot. So I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more.
Well, I think about it a lot because we could have scaled our last business a lot further if we would have had the right long-term business model. For ours, family entertainment centers, the capital outlay to open up each center wasn't the easiest. And we were doing it one by one and cash flowing profits of one to open up the next, where another brand went out and franchised it. And that allowed them to just really exponentially grow their business and really take it to the next level. So I would say on the tech side, the systems, the process, I think you need to have repeatable process, and the thing that I see is you have very passionate founders who know their product very well, but they're the ones selling it every day. You can't build the business to the next level without the right sales and marketing efforts. One of our companies, they're a big believer in putting almost 50% of their budget into marketing and sales. because that, and you know, it may sound easier than, you know, than doing it sometimes, but it's how do you bring it to the next level. And part of it is you need to have the marketing side to really back up the sales engine as well. So, and it depends on the industry you're in. You know, health tech's got a longer sales cycle, as we know. Ed tech can as well. So it depends on what you're looking for. And ultimately, you know, there's people who believe, oh, you shouldn't sell a company unless you can sell for $100 million. But to me, scale can be, if you want to scale to a $10 million company, and you have a nice liquidity event for you and your man, like, you know, to me, you read all these articles and you read all these theories, and that's great, but why are you doing it as an individual? So scale to me can mean one thing, it can mean something to somebody different. So it depends on the investor you're talking to as well.
Yeah, I was interested in your perspective.
Well, I'll give you an example. I attended a investment group dinner a few months ago, and they had different companies come and present, and one of them had already delivered a 5-to-1 return to their shareholders, and were basically guaranteeing a 7-to-1. I can't even make this stuff up. The shareholders in the room afterwards said, we cannot take that 7-to-1 return company. It won't work for us. The reason why is they need 10-to-1 returns plus to make up for all the failures. So it's an again, I'm talking specifically in the tech space. You need the 1 or 2 to really hit it big to make up for the 5 to 7. And again, I just think these are being real. You know, that's a conversation I think as mentors that we can further have with our founders, is just being real about mistakes sometimes. You know, not that we're trying to talk people out of doing it, but they gotta be mindful of what the stakes are, you know? So, I don't know if they answer your question.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. One final question, Rich. So with our topic, failing forward and winning, what are the 2 things to embrace, and why those 2 things in particular?
In terms of failing and winning, or just general? Or?
You know, I think from the standpoint of, you know, once you've hit that roadblock of failure or needing to pivot, what are the 2 things that you think someone would need to embrace to shift it?
You know, I think big picture sometimes. I think about myself 20, 25, 30 years from now, and what conversation would I have with myself today? And part of it sometimes leads you down the path of take the risk, be different, you know, get out there and do it. So sometimes, again, I keep on going back to perspective, and thanks for bringing that up as a common theme, but I think you have to realize we're in the most amazing, I think, business environment we've ever been in. You know, it's challenging on one hand, it's more competitive than the other, but somebody can literally go start up a company tomorrow and start selling the next week, depending on what the product is. Not every company, by the way, depending on what you're doing, but, you know, somebody mentioned a notary business before, you know, other people who are in real estate, you know, cybersecurity. I mean, you can get out there and go to market quicker and faster and more nimble and than ever before, in my opinion. You know, so I think that's one thing, is thinking long term, and what would Steve Rose in 20 years from now say you should be doing today. And honestly, that's a big reason why I'm at the Tampa Bay Wave. I kind of said, you know, that's where the future is, technology is, and I feel like I can make an impact in scaling operations of the Wave and bring it to the next level. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to be in this environment and learn from it and be around it. So I would say that's one. And, you know, sorry to be a broken record, but just keeping an eye on the ball of why we're doing what we do. You know, in this day and age of social media, everyone wants to do it for their fans and their friends and the followers, and be real to who you are. You know, that's the bottom. I mean, I had one of our mentors in the Mentor Network, one of the executive EIRs. So, Rich, what are your main goals? And I told him my main goal is to be the best father and to be the best husband I possibly can be. By saying that, I might not get an opportunity that maybe he would think of me long term. Because Rich, he's a guy, he's about his family, but that's truly my center point in life. So I just think we have to just be real to who we are. And again, it may sound like a cliche, but so many people go down the path of they're doing it because their friends are doing it, or doing it because they feel like that's what their degree tells them to do. But again, I mean, you know, I just think you got to be true to yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, how about this guy, Richard Heruska? My team, Josh Ray, Josh Sam. Hey, before I let everybody go and network, I want to bring the team up. First, Josh has something to say, and then I'm going to bring...
Well, I'll just say it right here.
Oh.
Got the L. We look for speakers. We want to do this every month. So if anybody here has some, you know, educational topic they want to share, we could, you know, potentially talk about that, get you on the books to be a speaker, or you know someone who has compelling, educational topic to share for entrepreneurs, be happy to take that information as well and reach out to them. So,
Brock?
All right, so I'm the social media guru for Tampa Bay Business Trendsetters, and I just want to ask a couple questions. So who found us on Meetup? Pretty much everybody here? Are you guys on our Facebook page at all? Do you guys know of our Facebook page? So our Meetup, essentially what we're going to have on there is we're just going to have our events, and then we're going to also have discussions about our events on the Meetup page. Now, our Facebook page, it is for all the videos that we've had at our events, all the photos we have at our events, we're going to share them on there. So you guys can like us on our Facebook page at Tampa Bay Business Trendsetters. And you'd be doing yourself a favor because all the value is really going to come from our Facebook page. And we also have a Slack channel. Does anybody here use Slack at all? Okay, a couple people.
Starting to.
Yeah. So our Slack channel, what we want to do on there is we want to have different channel threads, which it's essentially just a discussion. So one of our Slack channels is for past Tampa Bay Business Trendsetters events. And we just want to get feedback from you guys about our events, what we can do better, what you guys liked about it, just to serve you guys better in the future for the future events we're going to have. So,
And the thing, if I can,
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
on the Slack channel as well, we're going to create it to be just more than that, but also education. I mean, putting up videos of different things, of blogs that we have written. So definitely check us out just for educational value. We want to create a platform where people that may have a question and who are struggling can go and talk real time, and it doesn't even have to be Josh or Brock or myself, but someone else from the group might be on there and say, oh, I went through that. So definitely encourage to really hit us up on all those social media channels.
yeah. So our Slack channel, it is Tampa Bay Biz Trendsetters. So just B-I-Z, and then on Facebook it is Tampa Bay Business Trendsetters.
I just have another thing which is somewhat related. So if you live in the Tampa city limits, the mayor has this amazing program called Mayor's Neighborhood University where you can understand how the city works. And it's very kind of, it works very well with what we discuss in the tech world, but it also talks about, how the city runs and operates and all the things, great things going on in the city. You spend time with the police, the fire, the whatever.
Sure.
If you're interested in, doing leadership and understanding where Tampa is headed, look up Mayor's Neighborhood University. It's pretty darn awesome.
Were you part of this most recent one, by the way, or?
7, not 8.
Okay, because we actually had an event here for them with a couple of our companies back in the fall. So great, that's great.
All right. Well, thank all of you for coming tonight, and we still have time. Let's network and talk.
I have a quick question for everybody. Is everybody okay with being on camera? Because I'm going to take pictures of just for our Facebook. Is everybody okay with that? Cool. All right, sweet.
All right. I'm Rich, by the way.